We're going to talk a bit about hook patterns now, or in particular which ones I use and where they're used for what rigs. And I think there's quite a lot of confusion there of what style of hook to use for what rig and in what situation. So whilst it may seem immaterial to a lot of people, these are the three patterns that I use the most in my fishing. Now, I try and keep my fishing as simple as possible, so I'll tend to stick to probably 3 rigs that will do me for every single part of my fishing. And in those 3 rigs are 3 different hook patterns. So if we just run through them here, we've got a short shank curve, which I basically use for the solid bag rig. Again, very aggressive, tight KD style, and it will sit almost in a flat position. So once it's sucked into the fish's mouth, it's going to catch hold somewhere. Now that is a size 8. That's the smallest I will use. I really like to use a bigger hook these days. I've fished a lot of weedier venues, certainly in France, and I think the bigger hooks tend to stay in a bit better. There is an argument where you might not get so many bites because there's a bigger hook there, but I think once you do get a bite, you've got to land it. So I think it's just about weighing the pros and cons up. So that's the short shank curve. We've got one of my favourite hooks, which is the SRC, which is a stiff rig chod. Again, an out-turned eye, so for stiff hinge rigs or certainly for chod rigs, it's really important to use a hook with an out-turned eye so that the stiff material follows the contour of the hook. I do know people that have used this on a bottom bait and caught well. This style of hook especially, you've got an almost square point at the bottom of the long point, so once it goes in, it doesn't really come out, and the actual point of the hook is very long and sharp. So that is the stiff rig chod. The last one, and one that I've used to great success in the autumn this year, is a beak point hook, and it's a very kind of old-fashioned hook, a hook that really went out of favour over the last few years because the choddy and the solid bag has really become the favourite rigs of a lot of anglers. But the beak point is the old-fashioned, very long, thin, sharp pointed hook, a very sort of straight shank with an ever such a slightly in-turned eye, so that what that means is the rig is then kicked over before you actually cast it out. So I've had a lot of fish, I mean just a couple of 60-pounders on that hook alone in France, and it was just nailed, you know, 2 inches back. So it's very much a rig or a hook that's associated with bottom bait fishing, so a really long hair and a really big hook. And again, it works for me. You know, a lot of people will use a smaller hook, but hook patterns are a very important aspect of your fishing. If you get the hook pattern wrong with the rig you're using, then the chances are you won't even get a bite, let alone land the fish. So make sure you're aware and understand which pattern is going to work for you in your fishing.